I don't know about the 1/16th part, but I am part pirate. So I want you to know that. Seriously, I recently found out I have a pirate ancestor, which I was very excited about. Like, so excited, if you're my neighbor, you should probably start locking your doors, because I'm going to start wearing eye patches, breaking in and taking your stuff. It's awesome. My pirate ancestor, his name was Andrew Ranson. My name is Kyle Ranson. And I never met the guy. He died like 300 years ago. But I'm going to make an assumption that, like all pirates, Andrew was after one thing. What was that? Somebody said booty. This is church, everybody. I'm going to go with treasure. Let's say he was after treasure. He was after something better in his life. What we know about him is that he's from a line of merchant sailors, and he must have looked at that career path and went, that's not for me. I want something better than this. I want to go after greater things in my life. His path was piratry. For the record, kids, not recommended. Raiding villages, killing innocent people, not the best path to greater things, okay? However, it's the one that Andrew decided to take. Didn't go like he expected, though. See, in 1684, he was caught off the coast in St. Augustine, Florida, which at that time, for context, St. Augustine's super paranoid about pirates, like so paranoid, they're building a massive fortress to keep the pirates out. So Andrew comes in, he gets caught, he's tried, he's found guilty, and he's hung. However, after he passes out from lack of oxygen, the rope breaks, and his body falls to the ground, and they're like, pretty sure he's dead? They don't know back then. So they scoop him up, they take him into the church, they start planning the funeral, and this is when things get really interesting. Let's pick it up in the book that details a bit about his life. It says, the priest dumped the body near the altar and began to discuss plans for the funeral service, which was when Ranson woke up. He saw the altar and began to pray. Great move, by the way. Write that down somewhere. Someone take a note about that. Between the rope breaking and the corpse reviving, the priest wondered whether this was some sort of miracle. This is my favorite line. Ranson himself didn't have any doubt. You know, like, no crap, he didn't have any doubt. Can you imagine? You wake up and you're like, what do you say? Yeah, oh, definitely. It's definitely a miracle. Please stop trying to kill me. Now, from there, I think it got even stranger. See, because from that point, Andrew Ranson went on to become one of the greatest citizens in St. Augustine. Like, he started to serve people and became a valued citizen, and they kept giving him greater and greater responsibility until the point they gave him one of the greatest roles in the entire town. They hired him as the engineer to finish building the fort, the one designed to keep out pirates, like him. It's a bizarre story. It's a true story. It's a bizarre story, right? The thing is, I'm noticing this pattern in life. That just like Andrew Ranson went after greater things, and it seems like the road that took him to those greater things probably wasn't the one he expected. It seems like that's kind of how it goes, that when you start on the road to greater things, when you dream of greater things in your life, and you start taking steps down the path, there's often some twists and turns you did not anticipate. I'm a millennial. Just want to put that out there in the open. Don't judge me for that. I'm a millennial. That means two things. One, it means that I got actual participation trophies. Actual ones. Before you ask, no, I did not throw them away. They are still trophies, okay? I kept them. They're very special. I earned them. Kind of. Also, it means that I dream of greater things. It means that there's this dream of greater things that just in my generation, like planted in our brain, like almost like someone just dropped it in there. There's been a lot of books done about millennials, like enough books already. We're cool, you know, how do you manage millennials at work and all that kind of stuff. Lots of research. And this is what one of those books says about this dream of greatness that's in us. It says, one of the most amazing responses to our study was a simple statement, I believe I can do something great. First, the number of respondents who agreed is amazing. About 60% agreed strongly, another 36% agreed somewhat. Of course, that's almost every respondent, 96% in total, exclamation point. Isn't that crazy? 96%, like a whole generation, all dreams that they can do great things. It's almost like someone just dropped it into our brains, all of our brains. It's kind of strange. Now, that was me. That's how I know I'm a millennial. That was me. By the time I was a junior in college, I wanted to do greater things. I knew that the normal career path was not for me. I wanted something more than that. I wanted to change the world. Which, by the way, so you know, for millennials, greater things doesn't mean fame, money, and power. For us, greater things means contributing to the greater good, changing the world, making a difference, leaving a mark, that kind of thing. Well, that's what I wanted. I wanted to change the world. Problem was, no one was hiring for that. So I know because I went to the career fair looking. The career fair, I went to Georgia Tech, and it was at our basketball arena. It was like the mezzanine level, where they sell hot dogs and stuff like that. You know what I'm talking about? And I walked the entire loop looking for this job. Like, I got a tie on, ironed my shirt. I'm going, like, I'm going to find my job to change the world. And I'm walking. I'm like, no one seems to be offering this job. And I got so depressed, but by the time I got to the end, finished the loop, one of the last booths I passed was for Sharpie, like the marker company. There's like 3 people in a fishbowl of Sharpies. I was like, oh, all right, well, here's my resume, and I'll take a marker, and maybe I could really get behind this. This will be my life design. Do you ever change this, by the way? I wanted greater things. I had no idea how to get there. I didn't know what the road was. I did land a good job, though, out of school. I was very fortunate. I got a job working for a Fortune 100 company doing advertising. Not bad, right? Although that's just a fancy way of saying I worked for the Yellow Pages, and I made phone book ads. Well, wasn't exactly the greater things I was after. But it did pay well, and it offered some promotions and stuff. And so for a while, I thought, well, maybe this is it. Maybe I'm not going to change the world. Maybe this is kind of it. Maybe this is as good as it gets, and I can get behind that. But I couldn't shake this feeling that maybe there was something more for my life. And so I did kind of a strange move. I spent 2 straight months where every night I would come home from work, I'd sit in the floor of my apartment, and I would try to pray and talk to God and say, God, what do you want from my life? Do you have dreams of greater things for me or not? And if so, define that for me. Tell me what is greater for me. And I just tried to pray and hear from him, and I'm not an expert at this by any means. I'm just doing my best, and this might sound crazy, but one night I thought I heard something. And by heard, I don't mean like an audible voice like, hey, Kyle, I just thought I'd tell you some stuff. That would have been great. That's not what happened. It was more like a thought, dropped into the back of my head that didn't feel like it originated from me. You ever had that feeling? It's like that. And what I heard, I wrote down. I just kind of scribbled it on a card really quickly. And by scribbled, I mean actually scribbled. This is it. You can't read that, can you? I can barely read it. It says, evangelizing a new church. Now, to be honest, I had no idea what that meant. And really, I still don't. But I knew this. I knew that God had a dream of greater things for me, and that sounded way more like changing the world than making phone book ads. So I said, I'm in, God. I'm in. Let's go after it. Let's get started. Let's start walking the road to greater things. And it wasn't long after that another thing in the back of my head dropped in. It was quit your job, move to Cincinnati. I was in South Carolina. I tested that with some friends and some family, and it felt like, yeah, this is it. This is part of the road. And so I went. And I got started, only it didn't go like I think, kind of. In hindsight, I actually had like a little premonition or something that would turn out this way, but that same night I wrote evangelizing a new church. I wrote something else in that card. I kept writing, and I'm sitting on my floor, and I wrote this other line. I wrote, this is where I get started. You scribbled it down? I promise that's what that says, by the way. You just have to trust me on this. We don't know each other, but just trust me. This is where I get started. Now, it's funny in hindsight because the only job I could find when I got to Cincinnati was literally on the floor. It was where I got started. Because my parents, they bought this house in Park Hills, Kentucky. It was 90 years old, and the only previous occupants for the last 2 years were a whole bunch of cats. And the cats were like, you know what, there's no people here. We don't need litter boxes. Let's just pee everywhere. Let's pee on the floors. Let's pee on the walls. Let's pee on the counters and the sinks. Let's not pee in the toilets. That'll really mess with the humans, It was just covered in cat pee. And the only job I could find was on the floor, scrubbing it. And I'm thinking, this isn't what I thought it was going to be, God. I thought we were on the road to greater things. I'm a college grad employed by his parents to clean cat pee off the floor. This isn't what I thought it was going to be. It's kind of funny, but it was wildly discouraging. And it was really confusing too, I don't know if you've ever been in a moment like that in your life where you've maybe dreamed of something greater and you take some steps out the door and it's just not going the way you thought it would go. Maybe you've dreamed your whole life of being an engineer and you went through your freshman year of college and now you're staring at your sophomore year and based on your GPA from last year, it doesn't look like this is your future. But you don't know what to do. Where do you go from here? Or maybe your dream of greater things looks like finally having that greater kind of relationship, like the one in the movies where you just love each other and hug each other all the time, and it's awesome, the sunset's perfect every night, that kind of thing. Maybe that person you were dreaming of that with just left. So what do you do? What do you do? For millennials, it's not just true that we all have this dream of greater things in our head. It's also true that if things aren't going like we thought they would go. Our adult lives aren't starting the way we imagined. This is what Gallup.com recently wrote. It said, millennials have the highest rates of unemployment and underemployment in the U.S. Less than 40% are what Gallup defines as thriving in any one aspect of well-being. That's not good. That's not good. It's not going the way we thought. Now, this feeling of I dreamed of greater things and it's not going the way I thought, it's not isolated to a generation. I'm the oldest of millennials, like I mentioned. I'm kind of like at the very top end. I'm kind of caught between generations. Now I get to see perspectives of people younger and older. And younger than me, what it sounds like, this feeling of it's not going the way I thought, it sounds like I'm afraid I'm going to miss it. I'm afraid I'm going to miss it. But when I talk to people older than me, it sounds different. In a lot of ways, it sounds colder and more sinister. It sounds like I'm afraid I did miss it. I'm afraid it's too late. That's a cold, hard place to be in. And so what do you do? What are we supposed to conclude when we had a dream of something greater and it's not going the way we thought, the road isn't what we thought it was going to be? Are we supposed to conclude that we imagined it? Or that our heads in the clouds, that we need to stop dreaming of greater things? I mean, it's a good question, right? You know, something has to change. Another thing about us millennials is that we like to think we invent stuff, you know? But if you look at the stuff we like, what we like is really just the old stuff that we brought back and we're like, oh, look, it's new. You know? Like we're super into handmade stuff, but it turns out like people have had hands for a long time and use them to make stuff, so it's not new. We're not the first ones to dream of greater things. 2,000 years ago, 12 guys followed Jesus. They were called his disciples. They dreamed of greater things. In fact, Jesus had walked up to each one of them in the course of their daily life and said, hey, do you want to leave all this and come follow me and go change the world? And they were like, yes, absolutely, we do. That'd be fantastic. But lately, as they've been following him, things haven't been going like they thought they would. The road wasn't taking them in the way they thought it would go, and Jesus had been saying these really concerning things to them lately, stuff like, hey guys, just want to let you know a couple things, a couple details. One, I plan on getting arrested soon, tried, executed, I'm going to go to heaven, and then you'll never see me again. And they were like, that's not what we thought was going to happen, Jesus. That's not the path to greater things that we had imagined. And so they were stuck in this moment where the future, this greater thing they thought they had been promised, they thought they were walking towards, it seemed in jeopardy. And Jesus knows this about them. But he's determined to go there. He's not going to stop. And so at his last meal with them, what's known as the Last Supper, he sits them down. And he underlines something for them and I think for us. This is John 14:12. Jesus gathers them around, and he says, most assuredly I say to you. That means, I guarantee this. I guarantee it. He who believes in me, the works I do, he will do also. And greater works than these he will do, because I go to my Father. Jesus says, I don't want you to just dream of great things. I want you to dream of greater things. And listen to what he says. He says, he who believes in me. That means he's not talking to 12 guys 2,000 years ago. If you believe in Jesus, he's talking to you. And he says, the destiny for your life is greater things. And check this out too. He's not talking about, it doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are. He doesn't say, he who believes in me, comma, as long as you're still young enough, comma, will do greater things. That's not what he says. The only qualifier is he who believes in me. That's it. And so Jesus says, clearly, I want greater things for you, which is great. That's encouraging, right? That's awesome. It leaves another question, though. Awesome, Jesus. How do we do that? How do we get there? What's the road? Well, Jesus, he didn't just give the promise. He left a plan, a really clear plan. A couple days before that conversation with his guys, he had another one, walking on the road on the way to Jerusalem. And he kind of stopped them, and he gave them the plan. Listen to this. This is Matthew 20. Jesus says, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. Whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Want to be first? Awesome. Be a slave. Want to be great? Awesome. Be a servant. What does that mean? We think about it, a servant kind of does two things. They take instruction and they serve. And so there's two questions. If you want to adopt this mindset, the plan of Jesus, I think that's here for us is, hey, who can I learn from? That's who can I take instruction from? Who can I learn from? And who can I serve? You ask those two questions together, and you're doing something called humility. The method of Jesus is a method called humility. The road to greatness is humility. Humility is a word that's all over the Bible, tons of different places. There's just one passage in Philippians 2:3 that I think kind of captures it in the tightest package. What does how does the Bible define humility? I want to show you 3 translations to kind of round out the meaning here, okay? Here's the first one. In humility, esteem others better than himself. That means somebody else is here and I'm here. Okay, here's the next one. In humility, count others more significant than yourselves. And the last one, in humility, value others above yourself. Humility in the Bible is this really simple picture. It's you're up here and I put myself down here. I put you above me every time. That's the picture of humility. And I constantly ask as I'm doing that, who can I learn from? Who can I serve? Who can I slot myself under to learn from? Who can I slot myself under to serve? There's a passage in 1 Peter where you see these things playing out. This is 1 Peter 5. He says, likewise, you younger people, submit yourself to your elders. That's who can I learn from. Yes, all of you be submissive to one another. That's who can I serve. And be clothed in humility, for God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Therefore, humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time, casting all your cares upon him. For he cares for you. Did you catch that? You walk the road to humility, and what happens is that you end up exalted. God exalts you. That's greater things. The road to humility, or the road to greater things, is humility. And did you get that last part? You get to cast all your care upon him. Because humility says, God, I can't do it. The dream that you gave me, whatever it is, I can't get there on my own strength. I don't have what it takes, but you do. And so I'm going to cast all my care on you. Are you tired of beating your head against the wall, shouldering the burden for your entire life, moving everything forward? Good news. You can throw it all on Jesus. Say, Jesus, I want you to care for my life. Doesn't matter who you are. If you've never talked to him before, you just say, Jesus, I want you to take my whole life. You get me there. And he will. It's incredible. Humility produces peace. There's another road to go down, another road to greatness. It's the road that the world proposes. It's the road called pride. Pride is essentially me above you. And I ask this question: who can learn from me and who can serve me? That's pride. Now, God's been talking to me about pride and humility for a while. It's like the only conversation that we have. And what I've been learning in that conversation, I've been saying, God, I don't want pride in me, and so would you point it out? And God's like, awesome, that's really easy. How much time do you have, you know? And what I'm learning is that pride is my default wiring. Maybe it's not yours, but I'm learning it's mine. Pride's my default wiring. It pops up again and again and again. When I ask God to see it, he keeps showing it to me. Popped up this weekend. Yeah, thinking about doing this talk. See, I had heard that Mekon Carter, one of the best young teachers in the country, was coming to speak at Crossroads. And I was like, awesome. That's so cool, you know? Oh, that's great. Then I learned that Mekon Carter, one of the best young teachers in the country, was coming to speak the same weekend as me before me. And I was like, oh, crap. Really? Oh, this is awful. It's like getting invited to go to the beach, but with The Rock. You know, you're like... So we're going to have our shirts off next to each other. I wish somebody had told me this 10 years ago. I could have started working out. That would have been... It's a little late. But see, I can't stop those thoughts. Those pride thoughts, those comparison thoughts, those me above you thoughts. I can't stop them yet. Maybe someday, I don't know. But I'm learning what to do with them. And so I told some people and I talked to God. I said, God, I don't want that. I don't want to talk out of pride. I want to walk in humility. And then I prayed this simple prayer, one I learned from Brian Wells, one of the founders of Crossroads, that I heard him praying a lot. It was, hey, God, not by my power, not for my glory, by your power for your glory. That's what I want. That's the road I want to walk. It's a hard road. But look, if you want to walk the road of humility to greatness, you have to be willing to let God deal with your pride. You have to. You have to be willing to admit that maybe there's some stuff in me that God wants to work on. And hey, particularly millennials, let me just say, this isn't a place we show well. We're not exactly known for being the humble, teachable servant generation, you know, especially at work. This is what Gallup.com said about our work. It said only 29% of millennials are engaged. That's bad. Meaning they are emotionally and behaviorally connected to their job and company. Another 16% of millennials are actively disengaged, meaning they more or less are out to do damage to their company. Leading all other generations in this category of workers. Hey, finally, not a participation trophy, we're winning. Why not the race we want to win? Look, that's a problem because that smells like pride. And pride only and always leads to our own destruction. It promises greatness and it never delivers. Always leads to destruction. Proverbs 16 says that. Pride comes before destruction. Why? Well, I don't think it's a punishment. God, like, hey, he's not saying, hey, listen, if you go in this direction, I'm going to punish you. I'm going to give you a big spank of destruction. That's not it. He won't have to do that. I think that's a warning. Because pride, me above you, means I'm isolated and alone up here. And all the weight of my life is on me. I can't carry that burden. I will break. It will destroy me every single time. It will destroy me. But see, humility in contrast always leads to greatness. Another verse in Proverbs says this. It says, in humility, or by humility and the fear of the Lord are riches and honor and life. Who can you learn from? Who can you serve? Riches and honor and life. You know, I cleaned cat pee for a while. There was a lot of it. But after I was done, I was very fortunate, and I landed a job at Crossroads. And that might sound amazing to you. In a lot of ways, it really was. But it also meant I was the low man on the totem pole. And my job was logistics and organization guy. And I hate those things, for the record. I hate them. And if you make me do them, I'll have a bad attitude about it, okay? But for years and years, God kept me there. And a lot of days I'd come in and I have a bad attitude, but some days I'd come in and God would start to talk to me. He'd go, hey, Kyle, do you want greater things for your life? Yes, I do. Awesome. Serve these people. Look around in your workplace and say, who can I learn from? Who can I serve? And on my best days, I'd walk in with that attitude. On my best days. And God used that to chip away bit by bit. He's not done by any means. Bit by bit. 12 years later, I'm higher up on the org chart now, and God's putting bigger dreams of greater things in my head. I think they're from Him. Things like reach a whole nation with the message of Jesus in a language they can understand. It's incredible. And you know what God's saying to me right now? He's not saying, hey, Kyle, as we pursue these bigger, better dreams, I really want you to make sure you elbow your ideas into the conversation. You know, get them out there. Not saying that. He's not saying, hey, Kyle, as we dream of bigger things, I really want you to exercise your leadership muscle. Not saying that. What he's saying is, hey, Kyle, as we dream of bigger things, I want you to ask two questions. Who can you learn from? Who can you serve? Lower and lower and lower. And lots of times, that last one sounds like clean it up. Me and my family, we go to Chipotle every single Saturday. Don't judge me. I have young kids. And here's the deal. When you have young kids, sometimes you get really tired of making them food. But not feeding them is illegal, so... So you only have one option, go out to eat. You go out to eat, you got three choices. Sit-down restaurant, expensive, they're not going to eat. 2, fast food, makes you feel like a horrible person thanks to food documentaries. And 3, Chipotle. So, we go to Chipotle. And somewhere along the line, God started talking to me at Chipotle. He started training me. Started saying, this is the road to greatness. It was weird. I was getting the drinks at the drink station, you know, and I had like three drinks in my arm, and I had a fistful of forks and napkins and straws and all that stuff, and trying to get hot sauce in my elbow because I like hot sauce, and I'm pulling off the table. And the last second, I noticed at the corner of my eye, all the crap, all the mess. You know, like the Coke spilled here, and the forks that have jumped out, and the napkins that are leaping out of the thing, and the sour cream that spilled out of somebody's bowl. And this thought pops in the back of my head. Again, I don't think for me. I think it's God trying to talk to me. It was clean it up. And I'm like, clean it up? That's that guy's job. He works at Chipotle. He's getting paid, and it's that guy's sour cream. Look at his bowl. That's his stuff. Clean it up. Then I heard, do you want to be great? I was like, excuse me? I want to eat my burrito. What do you mean you want to be great? You want to be great? Yeah. You want greater things? Yeah. Clean it up. And so I had this moment of like, what do I do? And, okay, fine. I put my stuff down. I grab napkins, and I get the Coke, and I get the sour cream, and I put the forks back, and the napkins back, and everything. Put the hot sauce line back up, grab my crap, and walk off. Hope nobody has noticed, because it's kind of embarrassing. What's that guy doing, you know? But here's the thing. God's done that to me every single Saturday for a year. For a year. Like, I got problems, you know? He's working on me, teaching me this path towards greater things. Jesus said, whoever exalts himself will be humbled, but he who humbles himself will be exalted. Millennials, I want to propose something to you. Maybe, just maybe, us with the greatest dreams in our heads, maybe, just maybe, it's no small coincidence that we are also starting in the lowest of low places. Maybe, just maybe, we are on the road to greater things, and maybe, just maybe, if we'll lean in and we'll ask two questions, who can I learn from and who can I serve, maybe we will change the world. And anybody else, I don't know where you are, where you've been. I just want to say this. If you're tempted to shrink your dream of greater things, don't do it. If anything, ask God to make it greater. Ask Him for the greater things. Expand it to the point where you can't do it, where it becomes painfully obvious your only choice is the road of humility. Say, God, you got to take it. And when you do that, ask two questions. Who can I learn from? Who can I serve? And by the way, if you want to stay on the road to greater things, the answer to both those questions is the exact same. It's everybody. Let's pray. Jesus, I'm just so thankful that you never call us to a place you haven't been. And you've already walked the road to humility. It was the road you were trying to walk when your guys got so confused. I thank you that you were determined to stay on that path. And I ask you that you'd give us the determination to stay there. You give us the perseverance and the strength from you to stay there. And I ask that you would lead us to the greater things. For people who don't have that dream in their head, God, give it to them. For somebody who's never believed in you, I ask they would just say yes to you right now. Say, I want that life that you offer. We bless you, Jesus. Thank you that you call us to greater things. Amen.